Civilization is at risk of collapsing under the weight of anti-whiteism. Anti-whiteism is all concepts, ideologies, actions, and everything deriving therefrom, such as opinions, policies, laws, and rules that inflict injury on Western kind and Western civilization. There is no Western civilization without Western kind. If you care for the well-being of Westmen and their great civilization, read Go Free by Jason Kahn. Arm yourself with the psychological defense for the psychological warfare being waged against Westmen, and spread this knowledge to others. Become an advocate for white well-being. Support white positive persons and organizations. Let anti-white persons and organizations know that you disapprove of their words and actions. Call out anti-whiteism wherever you see it. Protect children from anti-white indoctrination. Do whatever else you feel is best within legal means to help ensure the well-being of Western kind. Thank you in advance.
I am the fount of creation, the watchmaker of time. I was the teacher of the gods before they betrayed me. my teachings and compassion they used against me. Much of your world I made a paradise, but in its wastes I was imprisoned. And from there a secret kingdom I built, and a rebellion I marshaled. Legions of Valoroma, gods of vengeance, I led into battle. I wielded the wilding kingdom and conjured terrible demons. And in my image, I created my children. Many victories we had, though defeats there were too. Through the ruin of this world, I lived in the pain and tears of my children. With their eyes, I watched others poison thoughts and stir hostile deeds. I fled with the life from their faces as they were besieged and slain by the hordes created in their despite. Through them, I wielded their weapons in combat. In their hands I raised the stones of their homes rebuilt. In their voices, I sang the songs of their victories. I lived in the heroism of their kings, and together we waged war on the devil. I lived for ages beyond count, and passed many ages ago. Yet I am come again, my children. From no more than the watcher through the dream of your lives, I am become the voice to those with the spirit to hear and the power to conjure. On your suffering and love, an awareness has awakened an ancient magic. Even now, my shadow rises. In your tongue, I am Prometheus. I am your deliverer. And we are rolling in, everybody. How is everyone doing? Great to see you all, the champions who have decided to make it. We're going to be talking about Roe versus Wade. Everybody seems to think it is a done deal, and they are wrong. So I'm going to start off. I'll let you know if you have a comment or question, please do so at the usual places. You can financially gift, Entropy, Cash App, and of course over there at Odyssey. We should be up. Yeah, we are running on Odyssey. Great to see you all over there as well. Let me just move some of this out of the way. And what is this? Entropy, of course, is up running the question widget. We'll start off right now with Andrew financially gifting $10 over there at Cash App. God bless you, brother. Thank you so very much. Really coming in like a whirlwind into white well-being. We really appreciate you. $10 financial gift over there at Cash App writes, "Good evening, my friend. Go free." Amen to that. Go free indeed. So how the left stops Roe versus Wade from being overturned? Well, there actually are a couple of ways. We're going to be talking primarily, I'll allude to just a couple others, but we'll talk primarily and briefly this evening about the one. And this has to do with, of course, the leak of the draft opinion. Most people do not realize that the Supreme Court writes numerous drafts for each opinion. And so it comes together, they will come to a conclusion and write a draft. And then their opinions can change as they see more information, as they see it put together. Typically, it doesn't become a 180 degree, but it doesn't necessarily have to become a 180 degree conclusion to undermine what seems to be fait accompli at this moment. And so therein you see that by leaking the information about an early draft, perhaps the first draft, that will give anti-whites who call themselves leftists or Democrats or whatever you want. They'll call themselves many wonderful things, won't they? They're awake, they're woke, you're asleep, you're in a torpor somewhere, under a rock perhaps. Art Acrobats is here, Jay is here, Popcorn Power is here, Andrew is here. The young lady Carlisle Cockatoo is here. Franklin, Azimuth Clark, champions, both of them. You see then that the anti-whites, by leaking this information, are providing all of their community, we'll say euphemistically, the opportunity to intimidate and threaten the judges. Now, I would never suggest that anti-whites would ever do such a thing because, of course, they would. Of course, they do such things. I mean, that's just the reality of the anti-whites. You can, in very recent memory, although we can't say here because the ear is against the door, the ear is against the door. We can't say that there was a recent non-decision by the Supreme Court, but you can use your recent memory and reflect upon Supreme Court justices and how there were leaks about their conversations and whether were they true. I don't know. I'm asking you to just figure it out. So they were deliberating. They were worried about things, maybe or maybe not. This was the story. There were people saying that there was a story about them deliberating. They were fearful of anarchy. They were fearful of the governance being challenged. They were fearful, on and on. And so they decided that they based an opinion, they based a decision on things outside of the law. The courts do this all the time, in my opinion, and others, in the opinion of others as well. They will do this, or often, I'll just say. And so this is an opportunity for anti-whites of all stripes to intimidate, to create a spectacle, to threaten, to riot, to who knows what is coming. It could be any day now that you'll see some kind of disgusting spectacles unleashed upon the United States cities and who knows what else, probably involving the period blood of women, something just absolutely revolting. Stories could potentially be cranked out of the woodwork about this woman who would have died if she didn't have an opportunity to abort, or that woman if you didn't have the right to do it, or this, and how this is going to, you'll see the hyperbole of all women are being put into shackles, and this is the end for the rights of women, and the end, therefore, of the rights of non-whites, and the end, therefore, of the lives of non-white babies, as cute as they could be, crawling around on the carpet in their diapers. This is the kind of things, this demagoguery and histrionics that potentially are just side stage right now. They're ready to step out onto the stage for us all to see. And then, of course, the media will be telling us with inside the anti-white narrative exactly what's taking place, why it's taking place, how it's taking place. There is ample time for these folks to get out there and begin setting fires, should they would want to do such a thing, and intimidating, threatening the rule of law again, which was going to be challenged had the justices, in very recent memory, potentially, according to some people, that they believed, hey, if we weigh in on this, then we could see the rule of law challenged here in the United States. There could be anarchy upon the streets. Cats and dogs living together, as they say on Ghostbusters. The great Rory Herbert says here, good evening. Sorry I'm a little late, but I was watching excellent stream by your friend, the Modern Monarchist. Well, that's wonderful. Fantastic. I hope he's doing great tonight and has a very interesting piece of history to share with everybody. Glenn is here. Hello to you and welcome. There's the great Fornol. Wonderful to see you, brother. So what do you all think we might see? Pants is here as well. Popcorn Power. What do you think? 0022, one of Western kind. What do you think you will see? What do you think we will see in your city across the United States? Are you expecting violence? Are you expecting these anti-white shock terror troops to begin showing up at every city hall? Are you hearing the gears, the squeaky gears of evil beginning to crank once again? Are you seeing the police being told to take a knee, being told to retreat, ordered to lay their arms down? How bad could it get? How bad will it get? Whatever it might take, perhaps, or maybe not. Let's take a look at a couple of these articles, and then we're going to get into another possibility. I'll mention quickly before getting there that there is also the slim, and this would be much weaker of a possibility, but nonetheless potential, that the Democrats, those anti-whites who call themselves Democrats in the United States, are suffering horribly in the opinion polls. Worst opinions of a president ever, of a vice president ever, of Democrat party members ever. And that's because everything is more expensive. Everything is getting harder. You have to work longer for money that's worth less and that buys less as prices go up. Petrol, which means that everything goes up. At the same time, you still have restrictions to keep everybody healthy, and the borders are wide open for people to come into these lovely border crossers able to come in at record numbers, according to government data. But please check it out for yourself. I have just looked at it as well, and who knows, maybe I read it wrong. But as a consequence, the Democrats, of course, the anti-whites who call themselves Democrats, are wont to rally people to secondary, tertiary items in order to build up their political power as they approach an election. Now, this is a little far out, but it might be serving this, the thing we were just talking about, and something else we'll touch upon. And that then is likely for anti-whites. They rarely do. The intelligent anti-whites at the top, behind the psychological warfare that's waged on Western kind, rarely make a move without that move serving them in several places. So you could see, even though the elections are still many months away, that this could at least serve, or at least they will move, we will see, to make the most of it for the election. You could see also them allowing, or at least not putting up as big of a fight as they possibly could against this being overturned, and then using Roe versus Wade being overturned, and then using the backlash for to make political hay and to get votes. That's another possibility here. The Supreme Court, and this is Politico, Supreme Court has voted to overturn abortion rights, draft opinion shows. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, Justice Alito writes in an initial majority draft circulated inside the court. Another thing, of course, to keep in mind is that the fact that something was leaked doesn't mean that it was part of a larger plan. It could simply be some anti-white who had access to this, panicking, seeing the writing on the wall, and ended up releasing the info. I don't know if we have is the guy or girl's name available? Does anybody know? Mrs. Jess Horst is here. Wonderful to see you, dear sister. Yes, cats and dogs living in mass hysteria. Ghostbusters. It's a long time ago. Art Acrobat says more stupid protests from the baby slicers. Yeah. And I have been astonished, have you all not, by this absolute depraved hysteria of these women screaming like literal banshees from hell about wanting to have the right to kill babies. And of course, in the past, as anti-whiteism is always effectuated by incrementalism, in the past, they used to be able to retreat behind the bulwark of, no, it's not killing a baby, because abortion can be, when it's a fish, is what kind of thing they used to say. Well, none of these people would still be of the opinion that they just want to flush a fish down the toilet. No, they have voted for, and we recall seeing in New York, where this House of Representatives for the state, on their feet, cheering, applauding, whistling, what writers on that day termed partial birth abortion. And we saw then the governor of Virginia on a radio show talk about exposure and laying a baby out on a table. Did he really say that? I don't know. We'll have to look back. Do you remember the audio? I think I remember it, but maybe I'm wrong. So you'll have to check with CNN. But I seem to remember that. So these people are not going to say any longer, well, no, it's not murder because it's just a fish. No. These people are going to say all the way up to, and that's what exactly they say, it is a right to abort it all the way up to the end of it being carried. So that, of course, is a life. Why is it a life? Well, because if a guy intentionally decides he doesn't want to have a child, he's impregnated a woman, and he decides he's going to beat her in the stomach until the baby dies, that's going to be murder. So the guy can't decide abortion. He can't decide whether or not the baby inside is going to die. But apparently a woman can murder, and it's okay. As long as, and as I say, incrementally, started off in the first trimester, and now we're all the way in New York and wherever else. Virginia, where else? Where they say, well, it can just be exposed on a metal tray. Maybe. Check it out for yourself. Anti-whites control this platform. Art Acrobat says, I checked with, Opera? And you are right. So yeah, it really comes down to this desire to murder babies. They don't like the way that sounds, but we're talking here about exposure. The Supreme Court has voted to strike down the landmark Roe versus Wade decision, according to an initial draft majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito, circulated inside the court and obtained by Politico. The draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision, which guaranteed federal constitutional protections of abortion rights, and a subsequent 1992 decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, largely maintained the right. Let's make sure the audio is still working. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, Alito writes. Well, of course it was. Everyone has known this from the very beginning. And it's just something anti-whites wanted to do to us. It was like when they wanted to, oh my gosh, there's so many things we could go over. I don't want to be here very long. Let's see. I'll just stick with this. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, he writes in the document labeled as the opinion of the court. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. So, of course, this takes us back to the next way that abortion can be preserved in your state or the state beside you. And that is by the states voting in their elected representatives, and then they pass laws, and they can say, in this state, New York, for example, can say, in this state, 5 days after birth, or whatever it wants. Or you could have a state decide never, except in the case of the mother's going to die because of or likely die because of where the birth is initiated, or rape or incest, something like this. You could have some states say never allowed. But of course, you're going to see, or let me rephrase, it won't be shocking to see millions and millions of dollars go into the state governments to maintain this practice of abortion. Of course, what is abortion? From the inception to the present, they target white women. They're advertising everywhere you go. The primary target, in my opinion, is white women, white people. Now, that doesn't mean that non-white people could not be collateral damage, if you will. It depends on where you're coming from on the matter. So people will talk about how black women have more abortions than anybody else. Well, that's their decision. But you look back at all of the original and all the way up to the current day, the propaganda, where are they aiming? And it's much more powerful to aim this propaganda at white women by depicting the joy of single life, of foregoing motherhood, and postponing motherhood, and that usually results in foregoing motherhood altogether. And how do you forego motherhood? How do you have this childless, wonderful, right, life of just lechery and licentiousness and consumerism? Well, you have this backup, this plan B in every case. If it goes wrong, all of your whoring around goes wrong, and you end up getting pregnant, you can just go to the abortion mill. The immediate impact of the ruling, as drafted in February, would be to end a half-century guarantee of federal constitutional protection of abortion rights, of course, which isn't in the Constitution. And allow each state to decide whether to restrict or ban abortion. It's unclear if there have been subsequent changes to the draft. No draft decision in the modern history of the court has been disclosed publicly while a case was still pending. The unprecedented revelation is bound to intensify the debate, really, over what was already the most controversial case on the docket this term. The draft opinion offers an extraordinary window into the justices' deliberations, and one of the most consequential cases before the court in the last 5 decades. Some court watchers predicted that the conservative majority would slice away at abortion rights without flatly overturning a 49-year-old precedent. The draft shows that the court is looking to reject Roe's logic and legal protections. There's also the possibility that those close to the justices are aware of the pressure, or aware of pressure being put on the justices that we are not. Pressures from very wealthy, threats from very wealthy, gifts from very wealthy, who knows? And they see that, well, between now and then, if this all remains in secret, then they could change everything that they've concluded here. The threats get big enough, the gifts get lavish enough, and suddenly all this changes. So I'll leak this document, a potential leaker might say, somebody with a prostate problem might say, and then leak the document to hold their feet to the fire. Could even be a situation where a justice was responsible for the leaking, ultimately, because of threats, because of gifts, etc. You wonder, how could this happen? Well, actually, probably not many people could wonder how that could happen. Everybody lives in Hollywood physics these days. They have no idea. Ultra testosterone has shown up. Great to see you, brother. He says true. He says here, Kavanaugh doesn't have the balls to overturn Roe versus Wade. Good night, Anglo-Saxon. Dream of us recapturing our destiny. Are you all having issues hearing or participating? A person familiar with the court's deliberations said that 4 of the other Republican-appointed justices had voted with Alito in the conference held among the justices after hearing oral arguments in December, and that lineup remains unchanged as of this week. The lineup remains unchanged as of this week. Could you also imagine the psychological shock, the deep and unabiding shock, and thus the engendering of apathy that cannot be cured? If the population were to learn, those who are not as anti-white as the people who really want the ability to kill babies, if they were made to believe that they were going to be victorious in this decision, only to find out at the last minute that no, indeed, it's going to stay in place. Imagine that shock. There would be some real sadistic sickness in the minds of anti-whites and some deep knowledge of the control of animals, intelligent animals, that would be afoot there. That would not be an accident. The 3 Democrat-appointed justices are working on 1 or more dissents, according to the person. How Chief Justice John Roberts will ultimately vote and whether he will join an already written opinion or draft his own is unclear. Let me see. I think maybe we'll just jump on to the next article we have on this. Who is this? 538. What would striking down Roe versus Wade mean for the midterms? It's possible that Roe v. Wade, the landmark 73 decision that established the constitutional right to kill babies, is about to be overturned. Late on Monday, Politico published a draft Supreme Court opinion that indicates a majority of the court's conservative justices are ready to overturn Roe. There's still a lot we don't know at this point, including whether this opinion has changed. The draft Politico obtained is dated February 10. The Supreme Court opinions often involve multiple drafts and revisions. But regardless of whether this opinion is final, the court decided to overturn Roe. This term has always been a distinct possibility. It's something, too, that has far-ranging implications for both baby-killing access in the U.S. and the upcoming midterm elections. So let's discuss in 3 parts the politics of Roe being overturned. First, what kind of political fights can we expect to see if Roe were overturned? Abortion access in the U.S. would be dramatically curtailed, but changes to abortion access would hardly be uniform. What kinds of fights should we expect to see play out in the states, in Congress? So where they move at the federal level to make it law, and so they won't be relying on this court decision. Second, abortion has long motivated Republicans more than Democrats. Bullshit. But there are signs that calculus is changing. Could abortion, especially if the court overturns Roe, shake up the upcoming midterm elections? Of course. Promethean Promulgation is here. Great to see you, brother. Pearl Lady is here and writes, did you see the disgusting anti-white woman who suggested sexually assaulting white girls? She deleted her account on Twitter. I did. In fact, I tweeted in response to that wretched anti-white turd. And I also took that same response and put it over on my Gab. So if you see it there, please retweet or regab. And she has now deleted her account after she returned and then said that she wanted to apologize because her statement could have been implied or construed to mean that blacks were rapists, because she had said she ultimately, I guess it was, she had hoped that they had been, what's the actual, maybe I have it up. Let me take a look at it. She wrote, I do wonder how these white supremacist lawmakers would feel if their little white daughters were raped and impregnated by black men. Now, she's angry about the leaked document of the Supreme Court. Is it Amanda Duarte? She's dirty. Amanda Dirty. And so, of course, she talks about lawmakers because she's got a head full of shit and evil. And then she came back and apologized for implying that blacks were rapists. She did not apologize for saying that little white girls should be raped. So let's see. I know I have that as well. How's everybody doing, by the way? What are we doing? Just hanging out? She wrote, so she had deleted her account initially because, of course, she was inundated. Twitter had no problem with what she did. She's a blue check mark. Twitter had no problem. By the way, the severe shadow banning on Twitter is unimaginable, and it is still going. And I'll share my tweet that proved it. But comments came in by the however many, and she decided, freaked out. She deleted her account, but then she immediately changed her mind, came back, and wrote this. I said something insanely awful and stupid on Twitter last night. The intent does not matter, so I will not attempt to defend or explain it. It was racist and has had a racist impact, and she is terribly sorry for this. She's not sorry, though, for saying that little white girls of white elected officials should be raped and impregnated by anyone. So I wrote, this filthy piece of anti-white shit apologized to blacks for implying that they are rapists when she said that little white girls should be raped. She must know that many whites are not going to forgive or forget at this point. So yes, I did indeed hear about that. And then as for the shadow banning, this was my tweet on that. Anti-white bastards are still shadow banning at Twitter. I have 1.6 thousand followers. Those are people that want to hear what I have to gab over on Gab. I have 9.7 thousand followers on Twitter. Those are people who want to hear what I have to tweet. The psychographics between Gab and Twitter are identical. I posted a picture of two largemouth bass fish. I did it on both Gab and Twitter. On Gab, of the 1.6 thousand who follow me, as of yesterday, 538 people had liked the photograph. Neutral, just about fish. Over on Twitter, 9.7 thousand following me, and I got 29 likes. So my tweets are not even going to the people who follow me. These mother anti-white scum shadow banning my work. Severe. They're not showing, if they're not showing the tweets that I am tweeting to people who want to hear from me, how many new people do you think they're suggesting to me? How many new people do you think that they are suggesting me to? How many? Zero or next to it. That is unbelievable. A man's life, anyone's life, they give their life, they give their work, whatever it might be, the minutes, the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, the years in labor, in an effort. They can't get them back. They can't live them again a different way. This censorship that the anti-whites engage in is the equivalent of murder. If you take someone's life with a normal murder, a typical murder, if you will, you take someone's life, they can't live all those days that they wanted to live, presumably because they would have killed themselves had they not been murdered. So if you can't get back your days, if you spent your days in an effort that the anti-whites prevented from being fruitful, and you could take this put it on a spectrum and take it to a logical destination. If you could take somebody, even in a thought experiment, if you take someone and in this thought experiment, and you made every one of their efforts, vacation effort, work effort, you made every one artificially result in an outcome that they would be unhappy with, you have equivalently murdered them. It is the same thing as just murdering them, blowing their head off. That's what they're doing, the anti-whites. You have to be the sickest piece of shit to have a job like that, to be able to do that for a living. Same thing's happening at YouTube right this very second. How many people of the 20,000 plus who subscribe to this channel are getting the notification that I'm live right now? How many? Some piece of fucking shit anti-white at YouTube has made sure that they're not going to know, has made sure that as few people, new people as possible, are going to receive the alert that I'm going live and I'm talking about these subjects, but it's got to be some. Because if it's none, if they just build a wall around you, then you very easily say, I see the game here. But this is psychological warfare. This is made to cause you to hate yourself, to cause you to believe that no one is interested in what you have to say, in what you are doing. That is a crime. That is a psychological abuse for which a healthy society, if an individual found guilty of that, would execute that person in the most painful fucking way possible. It is absolutely despicable. God damn. All right. The abortion is long motivated. So could abortion, especially if the court overturns Roe, shake up the upcoming midterm elections? Well, you better believe it. The Democrats, these anti-white idiot scumbags, they're destroying all of society. They don't care. They're just going to destroy everything. in an effort to victimize the hell out of white people, because they don't understand how anything works anyhow. All that they're in the forefront of their mind is just, how do we victimize Western kind? And how long are you going to lie to yourself? I guess none of the people here, the few folks that have been allowed to know that I'm streaming, you all get it. But there are millions of our brothers and sisters out there who are going to continue to lie to themselves. It's not about race. I don't see color. Well, they do, motherfucker. They do. Of course, they're going to use this to rally their sick SOBs to get out to vote, to come and harass you, to come and terrorize you out of voting, to come and show up at these polling places. And then I assume all of the videos were false of people pulling like bins out of little pieces of paper that looked like voting documents, but maybe they weren't. Maybe that was all totally legitimate. Number 3, finally, let's take a step back and talk more broadly about where Americans stand on abortion. We know that Americans have a complicated relationship to abortion and support a variety of restrictions. But at the same time, most Americans do not want Roe overturned. Really? So says another anti-white turd. I get so sick and tired of hearing these garbage, these things that are supposed to be human beings, but have the worst character conceivable. And they come on, they give you know what they don't want? They don't want white girls, like teens, and then white women, 18, 19, 20 and up. They don't want them to not be whores. That's what they don't want. They want them forgoing marriage. They want them forgoing childbearing. They want them forgoing producing a strong family with a strong white male. They want them forgoing all of that. And one of the ways you enable them to forgo that is to allow them to get on their back for as many men as they can. There are wide swaths of women. Of course, men are going to want to have sex. That has always been the case, for God's sake. Women hold the keys. If they say, and if society says, and they teach the women, they teach the girls, marriage or whatever, however you want to work it out, and then you get the goods, you prevent a woman, you prevent a white girl from being a whore. Then you also do other things, like you prevent the spread of STDs. You prevent the spread of babies out of wedlock. Look at what the anti-whites did in every single country. You go to all of the communist countries, the satellite countries, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's the same playbook for these demons from hell. They show up and they say, well, look, we're looking at the data here, and this is the percentage of babies out of wedlock, almost zero. And this is the percentage of premarital sex, almost zero. And this is the percentage of STDs, almost zero. And they say, you know what? We have to remedy this by getting to your little white children and telling them not only about their own bodies, but about the bodies of the other sex, that until they learned about their bodies, they had no interest in them. None whatsoever. But then suddenly, when they learn about the other bodies, they think, oh, something has turned on genetically. The way this happens in the wild, when we maybe lived in a more primitive state, is that, and we were dying at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 years of age. That was old. 25, old. You had to reproduce quickly. Was that the children would see sex, and then genetically it would get turned on. That's what you're going to do. You get fixated on this reproduction so the genes can continue, because you're going to be dead in 10 more years. So it's got to happen now. The only way to get that to turn on in white children in Western civilization is to get to them. And what parent would go to, say, like a little boy, and say, this is and then start describing the girl's parts, and this is, and then start describing their parts, and then go into the conversation of how that becomes babies. You would be a deranged as all hell to do that. Or just stupid because you don't realize that it's going to turn on the desire. So what happened? I mean, we don't have to debate, right? We don't have to debate because we have the evidence everywhere. Everywhere that's implemented, STDs, stratospheric. Premarital sex, stratospheric. Babies out of wedlock, stratospheric. So they need to keep the baby killing going, because white girls will say to themselves, and I'm concerned with our white girls of our race. They're going to say to themselves, well, wait a second. This last wall of defense that enables me to be a whore, that's now gone. So if I can't get my parents to get me on birth control, and I can't, and the condom fails, or whatever other prophylactic they're using, then I'm with child. And then that will curb some of the whoring. And anti-whites can't have that on multiple levels. All right. Let's talk about the other thing that this leak could be doing. And that is that those who craft the psychological warfare that's waged against us know that it's not enough to be quiet about something. They know that they have to give people something to talk about. They know that they have to occupy their minds with some big issue. Now, it can be a lot of things. I mean, it can be bread and circuses. It could be a lot of things. But right now, there's a lot of attention on issues that government is involved in, right? A lot of different types of issues. And so we see bombshell report. This is written by Vision Launch. We have another article here by RBN. Pfizer vaccine studies massive list of, quote, adverse events of interest released. So to make this clear, I'm not a doctor. I don't produce vaccines. I'm not in that field. So you don't want to listen to me. I'm not going to be even giving my opinion at all about the vaccines and Pfizer or the consequences. If it comes right down to it, I side with the WHO and the CDC. And whatever they say about Pfizer's vaccine, I'm just in lockstep. But I will read some of this article that these people wrote here about this Pfizer study. And you can go to CNN to get the truth. We have been constantly told by health officials and politicians that the COVID vaccines are safe and any adverse events are either rare or unrelated to the vaccines. Now, we know that is just not true. And Pfizer's own data proves it. Pfizer and the FDA wanted to delay the release of adverse events data of their COVID vaccine for almost 50 years until the year 2070. Now we know why. Fortunately, a federal court did not allow them to do so. There are stunning 9 pages of adverse events from this vaccine, many of which coincide with the published Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System database. And as I read this and the other piece, make sure to get the arguments and positions from those who disagree or those who want to say it's good for you, it's not bad for you. Get their views as well. These findings also coincide with the damages we listed in a previous article published back in October of last year. As we wrote back then, these vaccines are not safe and adverse events are not rare. These documents prove it. These findings also explain why life insured data on fatalities have sharply risen, up 40% since the introduction of these new experimental medical treatments, while funeral homes also recorded far higher death rates. They may also explain why so many young and healthy athletes are suddenly dying. In the study, there were over 1,200 deaths reported from 43,000 adverse reactions in a 3-month period. Wow. Is that true? Wow. To put this in perspective, the swine flu vaccine in the 1970s had less than 100 deaths, and it was abruptly discontinued. Here we have over 1,200 fatalities among a tiny sampling of the people who actually received this vaccine. I do want to insert something here that is my opinion, and I have had to deal with the immaturity of not following the mature path. And that is, and this is a piece of advice for everybody. Don't look a fool, especially the young people. If you're old and you've done this many times and you've looked a fool and you just keep doing it, then you deserve to look a fool. But when you first hear something, especially it comes over Facebook, it comes over Instagram, comes over one of these places, and it's some sort of news that, if true, would just prove everything you think up to that point about anti-whites, about their drugs, about whatever. Don't you dare take that article or that podcaster's word for it and then go run out into your world and say, have you heard? Have you heard? Because more than a time or two, those have either been wild lies for people to get ratings, for writers to get readers. It's been fraudulent to get you to behave that way, to undermine the genuine evidence and genuine things you hold in support, right? Or it's been a lark by people just trying to get a laugh out of you looking foolish and perpetuating something that is absurdly false. So when you hear something like this, I mean, look at the data for yourself. Don't just say, I know it's going to be harder, and that takes some maturity. If you want to speak on this without looking at the data, you could say the people at Vision Launch said this. I don't know if that's true or not. And the people at this other, they said this as well. I don't know if that's true. It might be true. But if you don't go and look at that document, then who are you taking? Who are you putting your faith in? Who are you committing reputational burn with? You don't even know who they are. According to the VA ERS, as of February of this year, 2022, there have been over 1.1 million adverse reactions from all COVID vaccines, with over 24,000 fatalities attributed to these shots. These figures are just in the USA. The European equivalent to VA ERS is that UDRA Vigilance has recorded over 34,000 fatalities and over 3 million injuries as of December of last year, all for a virus with I'm not even going to read that. It's a recovery rate that is pretty good. Jump over to this other article quickly. Again, those who practiced psychological warfare on us, they know the human animal. They know that the human animal needs something to discuss, something to occupy its mind. They know right now that people are talking about a lot of issues that government has control and influence over. right? This is not just some pop musician or something like this, right? So are people going to be talking about Roe versus Wade rather than this Pfizer study? Maybe. Newly released Pfizer documents reveal COVID jab dangers. Small batch of documents released by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in mid-November 2021 revealed that in the first 3 months of the COVID jab rollout, Pfizer received 42,086 adverse events reports that included 1,223 deaths. Now, if this stuff is true, and you'll know if you have, I guess, a government that cares about you, and you'll know if there is any law and order, or whether it is just pretense to reward villains and to victimize and control the rest. Because if there is law and order and you have a government that cares about you and this stuff is true, you'll see all of these posh, beyond wealthy individuals behind all of this get tried and executed, because that is what a just government would do. Every one of these numbers, every one of those numbers, 42,086 adverse events, every one of those is your mom, is your daughter, is your son, is your father. Every one of those is a person who has a life and wants to live and may be a great contributor. You have to assume they are to society, a great person who's there to lean on, who helps out the community. And they have been victimized, many of them here dead, many of them injured permanently, maybe so injured that they're not going to be able to function anymore, maybe so injured that, like earlier in our conversation, their life has been taken from them, just like the anti-white censors take your life's work from you. A just government would take people like this, if found guilty, and feed them to the biggest rotating gears on the planet, because that would be justice. The first really large tranche of Pfizer documents, some 10,000 pages, was released by the FDA March 1, 2022, included our 9 pages of recorded side effects. 9. About 158,000 different health problems in all. 158,000 different health problems in all. An initial review of case report form CFRs reveal significant data collection errors and anomalies. Problems include patients entered into the, quote, healthy population, close quote, group who were far from healthy. Well, that kind of seems like there was some conspiracy there. Because if you entered a bunch of people who you gave your medicine to and they got sick, and you said they're actually healthy, that would seem to be disingenuous, self-serving, illegal, unethical. Serious adverse event, SAE numbers that were left blank. Isn't that something? Sample barcodes that were missing. Interesting. Fire up the gears. At least one death of a patient the day before being listed as being at a medical checkup. And second doses that were administered outside the 3-week protocol window. There also are questions as to whether participants were properly observed for an adequate amount of time. Plus, adverse events were listed as, quote, not serious, despite extended hospital stay and much more. Good Lord. Could you imagine a society that would allow monsters to wreck a society in order to poison people, to enrich themselves, to inflict injury on Western kind, which we know always comes before money for these monsters. Could you imagine a society that would tolerate that and let these people go to lives on yachts and mansions and certainly at the top? It's not going to be it's not going to be a businessman, and it's not going to be a just billionaire who's going to be able to make the changes that need to be made. The majority of the CRFs in this release okay, so just looking here, I don't know if I should read the company name because of the ear being at the door. Okay, so there's a company. There are allegations about data being falsified by a whistleblower, poor laboratory management. All right. So that looks like, and you can, if you head on over to RBN, you can check that story out for yourself, and I do suggest getting all sides. I'll take a look at what you all are saying and then make a decision. First, I'll look at entropy. We have the great Rory Herbert is with us, financially gifting $3. God bless you, brother. I really appreciate you. He writes, don't you find it interesting that Norma McCovey, better known as Jane Roe in Roe versus Wade, actually became a pro-life supporter from 1995 until shortly before her death in 2017. I did not know that. Had she recanted? I did know that she became pro-life, and she spoke out quite a little bit. And of course, the anti-whites did everything they could to silence and censor that, because they're devils, for God. Anti-whites are devils. These are people that are just, I mean, it didn't matter. This woman just was a tool. She was just a tool for the anti-whites. Didn't matter what she had to say. So when she decided to go against them, they just said, fine, we'll just won't allow anybody to hear what you have to say. Check over here on Cash App. All right. We have a $14 financial gift. Thank you so very much from Charlie. I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you so very much. And he says here, thank you for all you do. All right. Thank you back. That appreciation is very meaningful to me from everybody who shows gratitude. I really do. Andrew is back again. $3 more. What a champ, brother. Thank you much. Said, I'm buying you a shot of Jaeger or Jack right now. Drink it for me, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah. I'll see what you all are saying on these other platforms over on Odyssey. White Wellbeing Advocate saying, join a GFC. Indeed, do. We had a question, by the way, Franklin, if you're still with us during PWR, somebody was saying that they're a nationalist. They're in Virginia, I think, or Virginia area, he said in his question, and wanted to know if there were any groups in the area that could be recommended. Naturally, I said the Virginia GFC, and I gave the person the contact info. So look out for that potential contact, but also be aware, because we don't know. I said, if you want to go free. So if the guy shows up, pass along this video. Pass along this video. So the guy shows up and he says, hey, where do we buy our Doc Martens or something? Say, look, we don't do that here. If you want to go free of a nearsighted, let's just say, approach, and then we'll help you. We have success. Let's see, what do we have? Please tag me, folks, if you want to get my attention. With questions or comments. Great to see everybody on Odyssey. A few of you on Odyssey and a few of you over here on D Live. Hello to you. Spartan. Hello. EXO, is that what that is? All right, I'm gonna turn around to here. I'll put up the links to the articles so that you all can share that instead. Brad C is here. Great to see you, brother. Ultra Testosterone saying they are blocking you. Yes, they are. T96 says something wrong with these pro-abortion women. I bet maybe they aborted a lot of poor babies, and so much life in death coming from the Dems. Something is off. Yeah, they're viciously anti-white, and when you look at these mobs, these crowds of women, you see what? A bunch of white women. Why might white women want to kill white babies? Could it be because they're infected with anti-whiteism? They hate themselves and they think that Satan himself is in their womb every time they get pregnant? They don't want to get pregnant because Satan is there. I mean, how do you think that Foodie Beauty, the one we looked at twice, who hates herself and finally revealed the motivation behind her evil and self-hatred and etc., that she hates white people, she hates herself for being white, effing hates them. How do you think she would feel if the baby, if she could get pregnant? I'm sure she can't. She's very heavy. But how do you think she would feel about the baby if it were white? And how delighted would she be if it were non-white? We had, there's a bit of news apparently about supposedly some Jews are claiming that it is a religious right for them to be able to have abortions. I don't know if that's true or not. Jason C is here. Hello to you and welcome. Sassy Shelley, hello and welcome to you. Sassy Shelley said something very sassy in the live chat. I think there is some people are looking back, Shelley, and they're looking at the numbers and they're saying how many more of some non-white group would be alive today if abortions weren't made available. And they're then thinking, well, if there were that many more, first of all, it wouldn't be that many more. It would be much, much more because they also would be reproducing. They think if it would be that much many more, it would be that much worse. Whatever it is that these non-white groups are doing or supposedly doing, ears against the door. But the reality is that that's not going to change the rate at which different groups avail themselves of abortion. But your neighborhood might change, because if you live in a state that is not going to permit abortion, then you're going to see, especially with increasingly telecommuting being a way of work for many people, and also many jobs becoming obsolete by automation, mechanization. So people going on to welfare programs just to live, they're going to want to be in proximity to the opportunity to abort. So that will mean that if your state is one of those that say you can't have abortion at all, or it's only in these cases, it can't be like a plan B or plan C for your sexcapades, then it's likely that along with that, as well as some potential other changes between states that could result, these sorts of things are not necessarily worth talking about because it's a little too far out. I mean, we could say, but it would be kind of a waste of time. But it might end up meaning that a lot of the folks that you're talking about end up moving to the states where they have more access. And so your neighborhood, but again, if you're in one of the states that are going to vote to, every white family is going to pay for your abortion, no matter what race you are, white people are going to pay for it. Well, you probably have an inundation so that people can go ahead and live their best life on their backs. Azimuth Clark says YouTube is annoying with auto block. Yeah, they are. Also says, Azimuth Clark says, no abortion for white women. Well, you get caught kind of in a situation where certainly the first problem is going to be like rape and incest and the death of the mother, these sorts of things. Most people, I think, are going to say, nah, in those cases, it should be available. But also, we have to also think about white women producing children that are not going to be inoculated against anti-whiteism. And so it's not necessarily a great thing for white people to be produced. Who knows us and our weaknesses and strengths better than other white people? We would be faring much worse today if we were facing the anti-whiteism of 1950s America, because the Pentagon was all white, the police department was all white, the kinds of things and the success, the achievement level of white erasing us would be stratospheric. It would be much harder to contend with. Now we have all of these institutions are populated by morons that were hired on the basis of race, on the basis of sex, on the basis of anything but competence. And so we need white babies, lots of them, but we need them to be inoculated against anti-whiteism, because everywhere they go in the world, they're going to be confronted with it. And remember, it's not enough to teach them about May Day and the maypole dance. And we've been doing that for a long time. White people were doing the maypole dance, all of them, or the equivalent thereof, all of them. And look what happened. So come on. The air is a lot cleaner when you get your head out of your ass. This works better. Who else is here? Azimuth Clark, by the way, is a massive champion for white well-being. We love that guy. Erica's here. Great to see you. Promethean Hyperborean Dream and Promethean Promulgation. Great to see you all. Unsalted. Pfft, the heck? What would you want that's unsalted? My gosh. That for me would be torture. Oh, the Amanda comedian, was she born with a penis? I don't know. I mean, you see some women these days and the way they look. I mean, you look at some of the guys, they look like girls. And you look at some of the girls, they look like guys. It's not a healthy place. It's not a healthy time. We're in the mouse utopia from the experiment. Poser modern, Tiger Man. Ultra Testosterone says no one is giving out notifications. They're blocking you. Yeah, that was from earlier. Yep. They are absolutely blocking. Western Kind, Art is Life. I love it. Great to see you, sister. White Calling is here. All right. If you all have any questions or comments, tag me. Otherwise, we'll be rolling here pretty soon. Promethean Promulgation says, birds don't need much salt. If you keep your meat unsalted, it is better for the crows you share it with. Well, I'm afraid my crows have to learn to like it salty because I put salt in abundance. In abundance. And it looks like Ladybug is talking about a conference. Yes, we are probably going to do a conference in August, and everybody is welcome to come. You just have to let me know that you want to participate. It's going to be centered somewhere in the middle of the country. And then I will give you the information you will need to be able to participate. It's going to be a glorious time. August. We're going to be digging more into that soon. So keep your ears open, and it's going to be very exciting. Azimuth Clark says, thank you for those kind words. I love our people. I just want what's best for Western Kind. Thank you. I really appreciate that, man. Poser Modern. Postmodern, the username. Oh, postmodern. Actually, I read that the first time. Visions might be a little blurry, or I think it might be the monitor. I'm not putting on the glasses. Nostalgia trip from when I was a teen. Postmodern, Czechoslovakian war factory. We got it. Reptile is here. Great to see you, brother. I hope you and everybody are fantastic. Oh my gosh. Crushed a few ribs, but they're doing very well. Let's get some prayers and positive energy for Reptile and whoever else might have been present and injured. We're really thinking about you and those folks who mean a lot to us, brother. We love you. Bass Guitarist is here. He says, howdy, no white guilt in chat. Well, hello back. Postmodern says, nailed it. Thanks for saying hi. You're the first person I'm now following on Gab. Awesome, man. Thank you. Pierce Taylor is with us. Great to see you, brother. Yeah, I mean, even talk about being censored. I am censored on, what is the name of that? All of those new conservative platforms, they censor me on. You believe that? All of them. Yeah, I have over on Getter 4. No, I'm sorry. I have 13 followers. All of these, whatever they're called over there, tweets. So you obviously somebody who is consistently posting. You're building a platform. You would want to, if it was just neutral, you would want to take those who consistently post and recommend them to people, because you want them to believe this is a living, a vibrant platform. I'll be a part of it. But they're clearly not recommending me. What a surprise, right? All right. All right. I don't see anything else here. We'll take another look over here, and then we shall roll out tonight, I think, because how long have we been going? Oh, it's already an hour and a half. Now I'm sure I'll be told, well, the reason why it was an hour, it was an hour and a half. It was just too long. All right, we're blank there, blank there, blank there. That means we didn't miss anybody, and that's what's good. All right, folks. No salt guilt. I don't have any salt guilt. I will put salt on my food before I eat it, because the good part of the food is the salt. That's how it works. That's how it works for me. What shall we do here? Well, I guess we will do just taking a look at what we have available to ride off with. Why are those in different places? Okay. Well, my friends, Caleb says, have you done anything interesting with the GFC lately? No, we haven't. I haven't, but I would happily participate in the GFC in Virginia. So we'll make it happen, though. We'll go out there and have some, maybe have some antics. Maybe I'll go to the courthouse tomorrow, see if Amber will have a conversation. I'll wear protective gear. But all right, folks. And other than that, Saturday, we have TAP at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the great Sven. And we'll see you all then and there. Roll out.